the applause. And
Even though I deserve it.
yes, she deserves it. She's my better half by far. And we lead a church called Foresight Church. We're on the West Rand, a stone throw from Harkini Lane over there. And Teresa is an elder in our church, and then we're mates with the guys from Pretoria as well. We're a stone throw from their church as well, in Centurion. They're lucky to see you, Derek and Franita. And then I know a couple of the faces here. If you guys don't know us, we're regular. Yes, yeah, Frank in the front here. How's it, guys? And we're regular faces around. And our story is pretty much like every other story. I don't think there are crazy stories out there that are unlike any other church story. But you make it up as you go. Our session today, we're going to be talking about how to lead together. And it's not rocket science. It is more of a communication science than it is rocket science. But you know, the Word of God tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 5, it tells us, Paul says, he says, do we not have the right to take with us a believing wife, as do the other apostles, the brothers of the Lord, as well as Cephas, meaning Peter? So he was saying, actually, him and Timothy are kind of alone in this thing in not having a spouse. And a mate of mine planted a church in Mexico. We became mates through church planters. Crazy enough, he was surfing the web, found a video that I did, and he phoned me up and he said, hey man, I know this oak, I know you from Krugersdorp days. So I'm like, yeah, Andrew, I know you, where you from, and all the rest, and where are you? Planted a church in Mexico. But he planted this church without a wife. So he was out in December, and we spent a lot of time together, and I tried to tell him, bud, you need a wife. Half of these questions you're asking me would be solved with a wife. In Genesis, the Bible says, God saw that it was not good for a man to be alone. So he made a plan. He made a helpmate suitable for her. And that's because, suitable for him. And that's because God watched YouTube and saw all the men wiping themselves out along the way. You've never seen women do dumb stuff on YouTube. It's just not there. So women are there to keep you alive and to help you moderate yourself and not wipe yourself out in an epic fail moment. And church planting is similar to that. My wife is a Proverbs 31 wife, and she's amazing. And you need your wife to be amazing, guys. And ladies, you need to be an amazing wife. And in the same way, and we'll get into some of that stuff, you need to be an amazing husband as well. So we have 2 kids. Joshua has turned 24 recently, and Abby's 22. They've just both finished their degrees, which is fantastic. And after years and years of paying, he's doing nothing that he studied for. So he's a sound and light technician. He does concerts and stuff like that. And my daughter is a flight attendant with Emirates, and so her teaching degree is also on hold. But having said that, they're doing what floats their boat. So I'm going to ask Suzanne a couple of questions, if you don't mind, just to get this conversation going. We're going to do this interactive. Hopefully there'll be some time at the end for answers, and then we can get into that. So, babe, what's your gifting?
So, shall I start there, or shall we start with a little bit of history, maybe?
Wherever.
Okay, let's start with a bit of history. So we planted the church 25 years ago, and at the time I had a catering business, and Chris was full-time at the church, and we just was ignorant and young and dumb, and but ignorance on fire, I think you would call it. And we planted with a dream in our heart and no money in our pockets. And absolutely just loving this journey that the Lord has put us on. we had a prophetic word. We had prophetic words. We had, like I say, a dream in our hearts to plant this church. At the time we were leading the youth ministry at a church in Middelburg, and felt the Lord called us to plant a church on the West Rand. So we packed up our little Toyota Conquest, and we sold our house in Middelburg, and we bought sound equipment for the church with the profit that we made, because, that's what you do. That's what Chris said. He said you invest in good sound equipment because then you will attract good musicians. So...
Nobody wants to play on junk. Write that down. It's true.
And so we moved into like a type of basement room of my parents' house. We were 3 years into marriage then. We didn't have kids, and we stayed there for a couple of months, and just planted a church by putting an advert in the newspaper to basically we wanted to plant a church for young people. And so, in the mix was like, if you haven't found your space in another church, kind of come and join us. Like, I think that will go in the book of church planters, what not to do. And so it's a little bit like that scripture of all who was in debt and distress joined with David, and they became his mighty army, right? But
over a large space of time.
Yeah. So we did pick up not the young people that we wanted to pick up, but an elderly couple, funny enough. But that was how we started, and 25 years later we are still in the same church, and we love our church. We love our people. God has been incredibly gracious to us, and I do think that we lead the best church in the world. So you're welcome to come and check it out if you want to. But as far as my gifting is concerned, is that I think Chris has always encouraged me to just operate inside of my gifting. So I do come from a catering background, so I think I do function better in that space of hospitality, hosting, that kind of thing. And so I started out by just really developing that side of the church, hospitality, coffee, tea, hosting people in our home, having meals, at functions. And so a big part of our church is formed round about eating, having meals together.
I think that formed our church culture. So many churches, all churches have different cultures. And you don't have to be the same as another church. Preferably, you shouldn't be the same as a different church. I don't think you should rubber stamp anything. But in the gifting that I've got and the gifting that Suzanne's got, God forms, you are the gift to that church. Now, without sounding arrogant, that's not the point. The point is, you are what God has decided that community that He's going to form around you needs. And so you've got to be comfortable in your gifting, and you've got to be running your lane, and that's okay. It's good for you to be you and to not duplicate anything. So, we were very intentional in that because we had bad church experience. Anybody had any of that stuff? Don't put your hand up. I think that's everybody here. But the opposite of bad leadership is not no leadership, it's good leadership. And so you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we'd come from a church that was incredibly abusive and weird. Not weird theologically straight, but corrupt leaders. And we thought, well, there's got to be a biblical way to do this. Let's do this differently. And that's okay. I'm not saying we are entirely biblical, because I think, everything that is biblical is translated through the vessel. So we might not look entirely biblical to another person. That's not the point. I think we have to be authentic to what God has called us to who He's made us to be, because that's important. Your personality is who you are, and God wants you to be comfortable in your personality and not need to be somebody else. So Suzanne, for example, is an introvert. And a couple of years ago, you wouldn't have had her at all with a mic in her hand. You know, she preached, I think, twice in many, many years under duress. She's more comfortable now. People will ask her to come and preach, and she does that quite comfortably. But if I ask her to preach, I get lip. But but it's like that. So she's a more introverted than I am. I'm an introvert. You never say, but I am. And but then she's even more introverted, and so we kind of complement one another in this. And then she's learned skills. I've learned skills. She's learned style. I've learned style, and then we can perform. You know, there is a private life and there's a public life, and I think people get into trouble when they mistake their public life for their private life, or they want to translate the two. There has to be integrity between the two. I think somebody asked Josh, who is now 24, they asked him one day, what's your dad like really at home? And he said, well, my dad is at home like he is at church, same guy, which is great because I was hoping he wouldn't tell them all our stories. But you never know what comes out of the mouth of a kid, right? But and thankfully that's been okay. So his integrity is good. So the person, the character, the personality is the same. There is just a public persona or a public role that you fulfill in leading. But God has made you who you need to be, and you don't have to be anybody else. And in the beginning, I think with church planting, there's a pressure to conform, to be a public personality. And churches run into trouble when their public personality, you start believing your own hype, start believing your own media, start believing that you're larger than life. You don't have to be larger than life. Just be the person God made you to be. And run in that lane.
Yeah, so I think that was an important thing. Just to go back to, gifting, is that Chris always allowed me to operate in that gifting. And he always protected me right from the beginning, from the church, the inception of the church plant. He told people that my wife is not going to teach your kids Sunday school. It's not a gifting. And yeah, you don't want me to teach your kids Sunday school.
True story.
And also, she's not going to play the piano, because that was the expectation in the church that we came from. You know, they wanted me to be in the teach the nursery school kids, and can you play the piano, or are you going to lead the women's ministry? And being such an introvert at that time, that was very, very scary for me. But then Chris, when we planted a church, he said, he just told people straight from the get-go, don't expect things from her that she's not. And I think there's a lot of freedom in that, to allow your wife to be who she is, and let her operate in her gifting. Yeah, so over time, I think I had grown in confidence, and like Chris was saying, you learn skills, because I later on, to the point, one said that I think being an introvert is a curse, but it's not. I mean, it's not a curse, but I don't think it's to your benefit. So I did learn some skills, and now I think I'm more of an extrovert and really enjoy being around people, maybe even more sometimes than Chris. So so also admin, I can do some admin, and which is not Chris's strong point. So we complement each other. We don't compete, we complete. I think that's important. We each have our own things that we function in strongly, and I think that's great to be able to just complete each other.
Suzanne's been gracious. When she says admin is not my gift, I think admin is my handicap. I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum. So I think for the way we work is I'm a visionary. I can see stuff. I can go after stuff. I have faith for stuff. And then where we miscommunicate is in communication. I did this once in church. Don't do it. It's not good for you. But publicly I said, hey guys, who knows what my blind spot is? And everybody's like, communication. It's like, is it that obvious? So I can communicate on a microphone, but I'm not great at communicating step by step, day to days. I just think, hey, man, there's the horizon. Go for it, guys, because that's the way I operate. I'm a self-starter, I'm self-motivated and all the rest. Whereas that's not necessarily everybody's gift, And Tadiso's wife, Karabo, she was probably one of our first church members. She's been with us for 25 years. And she helps out with admin in the church and she's like, hey, Chris, what do you want? How do you want this done? I'm like, I don't know. I don't really care. Let's get it done. You know what I mean? It's just like, I know what the end result should be. Let's make it happen. Let's have fun doing it. And that's me. So we're very different in that sense because Suzanne likes to know how things happen. And so in some of the tips we could impart to you is communicate. And I think that's been better over the time, right? So she doesn't find out about stuff in staff meetings, or she doesn't find out about stuff in elders meetings or any of those things. She finds out stuff when we actually hash it out ahead of time. I've learned to not surprise my wife. She doesn't like surprises. Not even on a birthday, she doesn't like surprises. She's just like that S personality, that's stable, like that. That there is a heartbeat there somewhere. Don't know where, but it's there. So the metronome of consistency, that's her. Me, I'm like all over the place. Throw in a splash of ADD and you got that's what's happening. And so she's sometimes got to ask me, and she's got to ask me strategic questions. So how would you like this done? What would you like done here? And then so she kind of has to just get me on the page, and that's cool. And then we can smooth sail, which is quite all right. All right, so
what advice can you give to ladies?
Best gift you can give to your wife is regular sex. Intimacy. Intimacy is amazing. Intimacy is, I wish I was joking. I think if you can keep your husband healthy, you must remember God made a helpmate suitable for him. Okay? So one of the tricks we figured out in church early on is that, and it set Suzanne free and it set me free as well, because God said he made a helpmate not suitable for the task, suitable for Adam. All right, so your spouse is the person that God has given to you for your needs. Okay? So bear that in mind. Now, I don't know how other churches work. I don't know how the dynamics between other couples. Actually, it's not up to me. We get to see you in counseling. But the truth is, the wife is made for the husband. She comes into her role when she is best serving you in whatever capacity that she's made for. Where marriages very often run into trouble, I think, in ministry is where we have this saying, we say we're not made to compete with one another, we're made to complete one another. And so when both people are particularly gifted, you get quite a bit of friction. It's like gears, right? When the clutch is not working lacquer and the gear's great, that's when their strengths, when their peaks, their amplitudes grate against one another. But when they are actually, the clutch is properly engaged and those gears can mesh properly, then the machine works better. So we figured out that her strengths complement my weaknesses. And my strengths are there not to point out her deficiencies, but to complement her deficiencies. And so where she is weak, I am strong. And where I am weak, she is strong. It requires a lot of vulnerability. And part of that vulnerability is intimacy. Vulnerability and intimacy are 100% the same thing. And sexuality operates exactly in that. So, ladies, if you're in this building right now, your husband is a sex maniac, but he's not the only one on the planet. It is like that. Every woman thinks, because she's got 100 times more testosterone than you do. So you don't even think the way he does. He is a male creature, and he operates with a testosterone flood. It's called forgetfulness. He can't see stuff in the refrigerator. You know what I'm talking about. It is 100% testosterone related. Okay? But that's what you need. You need somebody to lead you, to guide you, to protect you. That's God's gift to you. But in the same way, guys want to come home after having a Barney on it with unresponsive people, or like really crazy. I mean, you don't have any crazy people in your church. You're going to go and plant a church that's fantastic, no problems. But in our church, sometimes they're Barneys, and I come home and I just want to feel something soft. It's lacquer. You know what I'm saying? So that's helpful. Moving along. So, babe, how's your sex life?
Okay, let's talk about control.
Was that an active control? Okay. Then the other gift is girls, don't try and control your husband. Okay? So you married a wild man, leave him alone. That's the best thing he can be. He needs to, that's the thing that attracted you to him. He's adventurous. He is spontaneous. He is a man. Don't make him a woman. Whatever you do, don't control him. Don't try and keep him in a box. Allow him to be himself. Because when he's himself, you can be yourself. If he's allowed to do masculine things, he's going to recognize and allow you to be a feminine being. Don't cross those lines. That's very, very tricky. So don't try and control him and control. And ladies do that. You know, 1 Peter 3 talks about fear. It says, husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them, because God doesn't answer the prayers of that kind of oak, right? So don't be harsh with your wife. But in the same way it says, and woman, you are Sarah's daughters if you do what is right and don't give way to fear. So we've learned to read. I've learned to read my wife when she gets controlling or whatever. All that she is saying is, please communicate. You know the path into the future. Please tell me what it is. Tell me that you got a plan. She doesn't need me to tell her to stop being controlling, because that works every time. She doesn't need that. What she needs is me to sit down with her and tell her, hey, here's the plan. This thing's taken care of. Here's the budget. Here's the whatever. This is how we're moving forward. And because I know, I mean, my gift is faith, right? Which means let's throw everything in and head off to the horizon. We'll make it up as we go. And women operate. Men, you didn't know this, but your wife fears everything. She fears getting up tomorrow. She fears that somebody's going to pitch up at a meeting wearing the same outfit. True story. You know, if I walk up to Herkie over here and it's like, hey, we've got the same shirt on today. It's like, Woolworths. What did you get yours for? I got mine on sale. It's like, and it's a fat laugh. If women pitch up at a meeting wearing the same outfits, it's like, I'm not unique. Oh, that's horrible. I'm just going to burn this thing right now. Women fear the most random stuff, and that manifests in control. So control is not the default. Fear is the default. And you, as the man, need to secure her in that. In a church plant, guys, everything is unknown. Everything is a faith venture. And you've got to be gentle and careful and loving with your wife. And you can say, I don't know, but let's pray about it together. Let's find a way together. And you don't have to know. You just need to say to her, everything's going to be okay. So she needs that too. All right. What else? What else advice to ladies? Oh, don't be too critical. You know, the church is God's house. It's not your house. At home, you are the nest maker, right? Women make, a guy buys a house, a woman makes it a home. And she wants everything in place and whatever. Now, church is never going to be like that. You're working with messy people. You're working with people with different values, different scale of excellence to you. It's never, but you can't let that thing climb into your heart, because you're going to go home every Sunday saying, it's not like I wanted it. These people don't do it the way I want it. And Suzanne's got a high bar of excellence. She likes things like, shh. So we've always got to help each other to not be overcritical on particularly on a Sunday morning, because that's game day, right? And then you go home and it's like, so don't be critical of your husband's preach. He's learning. I'm still learning. Don't be too critical of people who are growing and experimenting and playing, and they don't know as much as you do. They're joining you because they think you've got a clue. They don't have a clue. Otherwise, they wouldn't join you. Church planting, you don't know what you don't know. True story. I mean, I studied a master's degree in church leadership and management. That's like a MBA for executive mega church, right? When we planted the church, I realized every single thing I learned was worth absolutely nothing. It just helped me to think outside of the box and not inside of the box. That's all it did. It's just, you can't import things from other places. And so don't be too critical on yourself. Just have fun. If you're not having fun in church, you're doing it wrong. Is that okay? If you're not having fun, guys, just do it differently. Because I think it's meant to be fun. I think it's meant to be a joy. I think God's people are hysterically funny. They really are. The fact that they all walk together in the same direction following me, that's even funnier. I mean, that's hysterical. That's worth laughing about. It's not as serious as we make it. It can't be because you're going to, I got an autoimmune disease like 2 years into church plant, and I think it was because of stress. I was putting stuff on myself that we didn't need to carry. I walked with that thing for 13 years before God healed me. It's a massive testimony, but it was hard, and I think that was carrying other people's burdens and weights and things that God didn't put on me. My yoke is easy and my burden is light, says Jesus. So that wasn't Jesus' yoke he was putting on me. That was people's expectations and, super pastor. You want to be that guy. That's not healthy. It's not healthy. What advice do you have for husbands?
I think maybe some of the stuff you've already touched on, but I think lead your wives strong. So we are the weaker partner in the faith. The word says so. So take your job as head of your wife seriously and lead her strong. Communicate. When Chris was saying, about communication, rather over communicate than just because I think often, you are in this room because you are a visionary, so you have got a picture, you have got a dream, you have got something in your heart, but sometimes I think a characteristic that can go with that gifting is maybe as visionary you don't do the small details, and your wife needs the small details. She needs to be brought onto the same page and really just brought along on the journey. I think that's the most important thing about leading together, is that you do it together. If your wife is not on the same page, and if your wife is not 100% committed to a church plant or leading a site or something like that, rather don't do it yet. I think it would be very important to get your wife on the same page. It will look very, very different if you try to do it alone. So I think that's quite important. Another point is to protect your wife from maybe some yuck stuff. So what we do in our church is we have, on a Thursday meeting, we do elders meetings. So it's a cycle. So it's elders, men only, elders and wives, and then we've got a broader leadership team that we bring in also once a week, and then also the wives.
Once a month.
Once a month, sorry. Yeah. And so I think, the men can discuss things in the times that they are together that the wife doesn't necessarily need to know about. So there's things that has happened in the church that Chris has never shared with me. And quite honestly, I'm grateful. I can't speak for all the wives, and I don't think it would be maybe the same for all the ladies. Maybe you would like to be brought into everything. But for me, I feel it was a saving grace that there's certain stuff that Chris didn't tell me. And so, and I think that's why 25 years in, I'm still loving our church, maybe.
No, I think you've got to guard your heart. Yeah. The word tells us, above all things, guard your heart. Proverbs, right? Because this is the wellspring of life. And I need my wife to be to still love Jesus' bride when we go to be with him one day. She's still got to be enamored. And, guys deal with stuff. We've got these little boxes, and we put stuff in boxes, and you put it on the shelf. So you can deal with some traumatic stuff. And we deal with traumatic stuff, man. I mean, if you've been in ministry longer than a year, every congregation has got horrible secrets. Every family's has pain somewhere. You've got pedophiles in there that pop out the woodwork every now and then. You've got adultery. You've got gross yuck stuff that you've got to deal with. And sometimes in church discipline, you've got to deal with them. And my wife doesn't need to know the details. She just needs to know bad stuff happens to good people. No temptation has seized you except which is common to man. Everybody in the church is going to go through something sometime, guaranteed, because God's perfecting the image of Christ in us. But I need to just keep her. She needs to be able to see people and love them without knowing the backstory. And just love them for who they are, not in spite of what they've done, because what you do isn't the definition of who you are. It's not a label you carry. It's just the way stupidity happens. And guys can deal with that easier, I think, than ladies can. Ladies take this stuff very deeply emotionally, and they hold on to it. And the best thing I think, ladies, you can do is walk in forgiveness. Get rid of the root of bitterness, because the Bible says that the root of bitterness grows up and defiles many. And so the root produces the fruit. If that root is in your life and you're bitter and you take time and sort that stuff out, because you're going to just poison the well with everybody you meet. And they might not know, but they'll feel. They'll feel the distrust, they'll feel the heartache, they'll feel the pain. Sort yourself out and walk in a place of liberty. Walk in a place of lackiness, I think we need to do that, eh?
Yeah, so take your wife on the journey.
Yeah.
Very important thing. And then also give her grace to just attend as many meetings as she's able to. Often, I think with small kids, it's a difficult season for you to be leading a church, to have kids, and often we have the privilege of being full-time in the church. It wasn't always like that. I did have a catering business for 13 years, the first 13 years of the church, but I've been privileged to be full-time in the church and supporting Chris in the ministry. So it was easier for me to, it is easier now to attend meetings and do everything together. Because I think that was just a value for us. We're in this together. I'm going to give my best time to the church. This calling that Jesus has given us, I'm going to as far as possible, I will attend things. But also with margin, because not everybody has got that capacity. I've got a friend, and she was saying that. And she's more of an introvert, and she was saying for her it's important to stay at home sometimes when her husband goes to things that energizes him. So he loves going to home groups, so then he goes to home groups on his own, and she's staying at home because she can't actually deal with another meeting. And that's okay. I think it took them many years to get there, because for many years she was just like, I have to do this, I have to go. Only now she's realized, or they've realized, okay, this is not good. This thing is not going to end well if we keep on doing that. So now they're going to do it differently. So and also pray with your wife about the things. I mean, we all know that Jesus knows. We don't always know, but he knows. And praying with her about things just help her also to feel secure, because I know that I can trust Chris in the decisions he's making, because I know that he's heard from Jesus, So I trust the Jesus that he serves to lead us into the places where he's called us to. So I don't necessarily always have to know every single detail because I trust my husband.
Yeah, and don't take yourself too seriously. Nobody else does. Really.
True.
Don't take yourself as seriously. Really, just chill. You're actually okay. You can enjoy your hobbies. Okay, so, babe, what do you do? What do we do that refreshes you?
I think for me it's important that we spend time together. That is one of my love languages, is quality time. So we do a day-to-day. On a Monday is our day off, and so then we get to spend time together. And yeah, so Chris has got a Harley motorbike, and so we enjoy going for rides on a Monday. We don't do it every week. I mean, we can't do it every week, but we enjoy riding together and just having a date day. Yeah.
I think time together is critical. You know, the strength of this determines the strength of this. The strength of our togetherness determines the intimacy in the church and the quality of the relationships in the church. Why? Because people pattern themselves off you. And if you're always burnt out, it's not a good reflection on Jesus. Somebody once said, I'm trying to think who it was, one of you clever ones might know, but he said to say you're a busy pastor is the same as saying you're an adulterous wife. It's not a compliment. And I know all of us are busy and all of us can fill 24 hours of a day of work. I mean, I'm sitting here, I know there are things I need to go home and attend to. And we know that you're available 24/7, but if you don't look after yourself, you're going to become a statistic. And the statistic looks like this. I had a look at statistics this week. I think it was Barner who put out some statistics, and most people in full-time ministry last 5 years. 80% of people who elder in a full-time capacity last in ministry for 5 years. Okay? I think because of wrong expectations, but also because of not pacing yourself. On the flip side of that, how many people last the whole long haul? I heard Greg Garrett say last week, 1% of pastors will pastor a church for 30 years. 1%? Many people, and I understand some guys are long haul guys, some guys are seasoned guys, and you move around to a different place. But I honestly think that statistic is due to the fact that you're not looking after yourself or your relationship. I know guys who entered ministry. A mate of mine planted a church, and within the first year he was divorced. His wife said, I didn't sign up for that. And he's like, okay, I'll carry on anyway. It's like, no, you're disqualified from ministry. So anyway, he's not partnering with us. It wasn't with the NCMI, but he was partnering with us at the time. And before we were partnering with the NCMI, and he's, they've gone off on a tangent. It's not healthy, man. So the word talks about disqualifications of elders. 1 Timothy 3 is the qualifications of any good Christian, right? Those are the things that disqualify you. Because if you cannot look after your own family, how can you look after the household of God? So Suzanne on the way here played me a audio. She asked Abigail, who is 22, she asked her, Abby, what could we have done differently in raising kids? I'm going to ask you to answer that. What could we have done differently in raising kids?
So when we had the conversation initially, I said to her, look, I don't know if I would have done anything differently if I was given the opportunity to raise kids while planning a church, because it is a little bit crazy to plant a church and then have babies in the same year. And, it's just like it all just blended into one. But, you are who God has created you to be, and so you do things in a certain way. But I do think that there's things that maybe we look back and we think, okay, maybe we could have done this a little bit different or a little bit better. So one of the things that she said was that, your kids are just as much part of this church as what you are. But sometimes we go on and we make our plans and we plan our lives, we plan our diaries, we plan our weeks, and we don't always consider our kids. Well, I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking for me. Maybe that's what we did. We didn't do that as well as we could have. Just including them in the conversations and saying, okay, what does your week look like? This is what we're planning. We're inviting these people into our home for a meal, and then it would be more than one couple. How will that affect your plans? And she was saying she didn't properly understand that leading a church is a calling and it's not a job. So she didn't, as a little kiddie, she didn't understand that actually this is our lives, this is our callings, this is what we're going to do. And she didn't understand that it's not a job like her friends had, parents had jobs that they can go home at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or, and then not go back to work. So her parents' job never ended. It just carried on day after day, night after night. And she says, perhaps just bring your kids into the conversation regularly and explain to them that this is not a job, this is a calling, and this is what we're going to be doing with our lives for the rest of our lives. So how are you doing? How is this affecting you? How can we include you more into the conversation and just make sure that your kids are okay? And on that point, it's a little bit off the point, but also protect your kids from some of the things that happens in church. It's not helpful for your kids to know that this couple that was on your eldership is now leaving the church because they actually really don't like the way that you dealt with a certain situation. These are people that they have also loved, that also have loved them, and now are just suddenly, out of their lives. So I think it's very important to protect your kids from some of the things that happen in church life. You can bring them into certain conversations when you're on your own at their level, but never ever let them hear what is going on. For many years we didn't have a door on our lounge, and then that's not so helpful, because then they're in the next room and they overhear a conversation, and they're like, okay, what must I do with this information now that nobody else is supposed to know that this lady is expecting a baby but is not with her husband? And that has actually happened. So and we told our kids, look, this is how they are choosing to deal with it in the way that they are not going to tell even their parents. So we need you to now not share this information. And so.
And also, please protect your kids from crazy people at church. There are some people. I remember having this conversation with Joshua. He was early in high school, and he came to me one day, kind of in a panic, and he said to me, "Dad, will you still love me if I choose to not be a pastor?" I'm like, "Why would you want to be a pastor?" He said, "No, people always prophesy over me I'm going to be a pastor, but what if I don't want to be?" It's like, well, then nothing. Then go and be a mechanic and go drive a truck and go do whatever you want. What do you want to do? So there are crazies in your church, and just maybe moderate that and just tell them, hey guys, live free from the expectations that other people are putting on you, because they are in the fishbowl. People are looking at their life all the time, and what was particularly unhelpful for us is the teachers at school used to pick on, my boy was particularly naughty. And pastors' kids are naughty because they've only got the congregation members' kids to play with. So they learn all their tricks. But he got up to nonsense. And then the teachers would be hard on him. They'd say to him, "But you're a pastor's kid. You can't live like that. You can't do that. You're a pastor's kid. What example are you to the rest of the people?" I had to actually have a telephone conversation. We were in Zimbabwe once, And we didn't take our kids with. We mostly try to take our kids with on apostolic trips, mostly, but this time they couldn't. And one teacher, in her wisdom, put my kid out of the class for a week because of some stupid minor infringement. And he could, anyway, I found out about this, and I phoned her up. What happened was, she said to him, you're a pastor's kid. And he lost it with her. And so she threw him out because it was probably, she picked on him all the time. Anyway, and I had a conversation from Zimbabwe to South Africa to tell her, please give him a little bit of grace. He's not me, and don't work that way. We'll talk when we get back. We didn't have to, but it's an unhelpful situation, you know. And so please also, if there's stuff like that comes up, obviously talk to your kids and help them to be a little bit more respectful. My kids aren't disrespectful. I'm not saying that, but, you know, boys are boys. But you do have to have those conversations with the significant other people in their lives that are putting pressure on them to be something that they're not, you know?
Yeah, so our time is running out. So in closing, I think for me, what has kept us just sane and loving Jesus and his bride after 25 years is the fact that this is a together thing. We are doing it together, and as much as possible I will be there to support my husband in the calling, and him support me in my calling as well. It's not that I don't have a calling, I also have a calling.
It's just different.
Yeah, it's just different. So yeah, and also don't compare yourself, ladies, don't compare yourself to anybody else. You are unique in what God has made you to be, and you don't have to. I used to compare myself with other pastors' wives who sees a lot of ladies, you know, spends a lot of times with coffees with ladies, and then they tell you about it because that's what they do, and I'm like, but I don't do that, you know, and I'm okay with that. This is not what I'm good at. I'm getting better at it. And I'm doing more of it now that my kids are big and out the house and I've got more time. But, you know, there was a time when I wasn't seeing any ladies, you know, and because there's other people in your church, you know, you've got a team. I heard a quote actually today, and somebody said, a dream without a team is a nightmare. And that's pretty accurate. You lead with a team. And there are other people in the team. We travel quite a bit into the nations, and we traveled to the Philippines just recently, and that was the first time that we traveled without a team. And I said to Chris, I'm sorry, I'm never doing that again. Not that he wasn't enough, but, you know, my personality style and, you know, my gifting, I rely a lot on the people in my team. So, yeah, so team is key, and together is key.
Yeah. Guys, any questions? We've got about 10 minutes left. We don't have to fill the space, but are there any questions? Think of something you want to ask, because Suzanne has a lot of answers. Is there anything you'd like to ask? I'll tell you something that we didn't talk about, and that is this. And you probably got that a lot this week. Look, we did church when we planted. We did not know about NCMI. We planted the best that we knew. 7 years in, we started partnering with NCMI. We've been on the team now for the last 12 years. But we didn't know what we didn't know. 2 years ago, Deerwold and Nikki, they were elders on our team. They planted in Cape Town. And ahead of time, they said, we don't know who we want to partner with. We're going to look at these different flows and all the rest. We're going to plant an independent church. I said to the guys, well, we'll help you as much as we can. You need to be led by the Spirit and go the way of the Spirit. But no, we'll be there for you always, because we're sending you and we're planting with you, and whatever, you know, just in the relationship. A year later, they came up, they were up at Equip, and they spent some time with us, and they're like, we didn't know how hard it was to plant a church. We didn't know. But after having gone to every, like the Equips and all the rest, they're like, we know where our connects and Equips and all the rest. We know that we've got family around us now, and we fully understand NCMI. We fully understand the need for partnership. We fully understand the need to not do this alone. You cannot, you can, but you shouldn't do it alone. We tried, and we seriously, we didn't know any better. But friends, I'm telling you, there is a biblical model, and I think NCMI is the closest model to a biblical model we can find. Is it perfect? No. No family is perfect. There are cousins you don't like or particularly get along well with. But it is a biblical model, and it is good, and you will be loved, and people will look after you. They will look out for you, and at the best of their level and their ability to do that. Now, is it true globally? I can't say that, but what I can say is you got to find people around you that can speak into your marriage, and that's one of the things that's good. We've got couples that we see about our marriage, about our intimacy. We talk to them about our family. We talk to them about our finances. There are couples that come and reference us concerning that. You need friends. One of the lifesavers has been, the guys go down to a hole in the wall. Just guys get to hang out together and just be guys and pray with each other and go fishing and whatever. Some of you in the room have been there. Do that. You need other guys in ministry around you that are mates, and you need mates around you for the long haul, particularly if you're the senior leader in a church. Lead elder. That's a big thing.
Yeah, I think there's also some ladies' times that you can attend for the ladies, and then also the connects have been very, very helpful. Even for introverts, it's a good thing. Okay.
Cool beans. We'll be around for yes. There's a question over there. Can you come up here so that we can get you on the mic and probably on the camera?
Thank you, man. So I just have 3 questions, but I know you kind of partly answered some of them. So you talked about your kids being put under pressure to be pastors' kids, but how deliberate are you in speaking to them and kind of coaching them that you don't have to be pastor's kids, you can be an individual? Yeah. You don't have to actually put emphasis on that on them, not only to other people, not to put those expectations on them, but to kind of coach them and counsel them to say that you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to follow even in my role, but I think it kind of make clear, The next question, the lead pastor's wife. I've seen that mostly you guys are the most abused. The lead pastor's wives are the most abused, or there's too much expectations on them, to a point that, especially because now Chris leads the church, there's that expectation that kind of is put on her shoulders to be a kind of a woman leader, even if she may not even have the qualities of the leader. You find that there's somebody maybe in the church who can best lead women ministry or something like that, but somehow the church, there's an expectation to say that no, your husband is a leader, you must be a leader in the women's side as well. Okay, so how do you deal with that? That's the second question. Third one, I'm so sorry. In terms of vision, as the vision bearer of the church, as a lead elder, if maybe the Lord points you somewhere else, gives you a direction, how does that work? Do you speak to the lead elders, to the fellow men who are elders in the team, or do you first communicate it with your wife so that your wife can pray with you so that it becomes clear before you communicate to everybody else?
Okay, so I think the one with the kids we already touched on, but as far as that expectation thing of, you've got to be a certain way. Chris has got a saying, you teach people how to treat you. And so if you if you allow them to put expectations on you, then they will always take that advantage. They will always, and not because people are bad, just because they're people. But if you can point them to, say for instance, somebody else, you mentioned mentioned the ladies' ministry. If your wife is not the right person to lead the ladies' ministry, just point them somewhere else. I think, the best thing that you can do is just, and then also just back your wife in that, just let her lead with confidence in the areas that she's good at. Yeah.
So 4 things in ministry. Before you start a ministry, any ministry, whether it's women, youth, pensioners, whatever, is there a champion? Is there a visionary for it? Churches don't grow when all vision has to happen through the lead guy. You need other visionaries that slipstream with you. You need a champion. That champion needs to raise a team. You can help them connect with a team. They need to have a team, because if that champion falls down, you've got to kickstart that ministry in a year's time or 6 months' time or whatever. And then you've got a church that does this. Is there a champion for it? Is there a team for it? Is it sustainable? In other words, can this thing run on its own? Does it have life? Or are you creating the life? Is it the life of Christ? Or are you artificially keeping that thing going? And the fourth thing is it scalable? So can that leader take it from 3 people to 5 people to 7 people to 10 people? And then you can reevaluate as you go. So I'll give you those 4 things that we talk about on our team. Is there a champion? Because otherwise she's going to do it or I'm going to do it. And that's not God's will. We run in our lane, we run in our gifting, okay? Champion, team, sustainability, and scalability. Can that thing upscale as it grows? And the answer to all of those in a church planting is no. It can't upscale, because you don't know what it can become. And then you work with those leaders to help them grow, because when the leader grows, the speed of the leader determines the speed of the team. So when that leader's running strong, then that team runs strong, then that ministry runs strong. So those are the 4 things.